We got, again, a Florida lawmaker wants to ban transgender drugs and surgery for minors. Just thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. A Florida lawmaker wants to ban giving drugs to or performing surgeries on minors for gender assignment. Florida Rep Randy Fine. I don't know who you are, Randy Fine, but fantastic job. Fantastic job. I'm not even going to make a joke about that name because that name is filled with jokes. Tweeted on Monday that he will introduce legislation to next session to make it a crime of felony child abuse to provide these services to minors, punishable by prison time and loss of medical license. We should not have children making decisions they cannot undo, said Fine. Thank you. Thank you. That's one thing we've been talking about so long. These are decisions they cannot undo. All right, we're talking about children here. We're talking about prepubescent children in most of these instances where they are getting hormone blockers. In many ways, these are young boys and girls. Young boys are chemically castrating themselves. Young girls are taking testosterone, which is just steroids, mind you. All right, I mean, it's funny. Maybe it's because I came from a boxing background where I did boxing for a couple years, and there's people in the gym who did steroids. There's female boxers who took some Anavar, which is a very low-level steroid that, it does a lot of benefit for when it comes to building muscle and endurance, things like that, but it doesn't have as many side effects as stuff like D-ball and some of the other forms of steroids would give you. But even when they took some light stuff like Anavar, it changed them. It changed them. And these are changes that you don't get back, right? I mean, when it comes to, especially with females, if you start giving testosterone in their younger years and they start developing these secondary, sexual characteristics of men, like growing out facial hair and stuff, listen, that's not going to change. Their voice is going to deepen, right? If you take steroids, your voice will deepen. Even as a man, your voice will deepen. So, I don't know, maybe I need to take some steroids. I could use a bit deeper of a voice. But it deepens your voice. And that's like they'll never get back. They'll never have their feminine voice back again. For men, if you start taking different if you start taking these test blockers and things like that, they're giving these young boys, yeah, their testosterone will bounce back a little bit if they choose to get off of it, but more than likely it's going to stay well below average when it comes to what their natural test level should be, right? You are literally causing them a medical issue for life they're going to have to work with. Either A, they're going to have to take different type of hormones for the rest of their life in general to remain trans, or B, they're going to try to detransition, which we're seeing increases in all across the world at this point, especially when you look at places like the UK. And they're going to have to start getting on like TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, when they're in their 20s. Okay, this is not... These are not temporary changes. These are life-altering changes, and we're allowing 10-year-olds to do these sort of things. It is absolutely insane when we really look at how all this stuff is going down. Now, I know some people still say, oh, well, it's still their decision. Listen, they cannot give consent. They are children. They cannot give consent to this sort of stuff, right? We have laws on consent. There's certain things children cannot do. A young girl cannot go to a plastic surgeon and get breast implants, right? All right, a young boy cannot request to get, I can't think of the name all of a sudden, the snip to make sure you can't have kids, right? There's certain things that you cannot do if you're below a certain age. Even if you have parents' permission, they will not allow you to do. And for good reason. Because you're a child. You're a child. You don't know anything. All right, none of us did. None of us as children knew anything. But these are life-altering changes that we're talking about here. So he continued to say, now my bill would not say that if you're a boy and you think you're a girl that you cannot have people call you a girl, address a girl, or go to mental counseling to talk about it. It simply says you have to wait until you're an adult, which is fair. I think that is fair. Now, frankly, I still say even doing the social transitioning is still akin to child abuse because... And for one, if you're a kid who's suffering through gender dysphoria, typically you're going to grow out of it. Over 90% of the cases, they grow out of it by the time they're 18 and live very healthy and normal lives afterwards. If you allow them to continue to be transgender, well, guess what? Now you've signed them up for an issue that's now going to give them about a 50-50 chance of themselves or not, right? So, and that's the thing. Right now in the trans community, suicides overall, they're about 40 to 50%. And that's transition or not transition. It doesn't matter. That is you living in LA versus you living in like the Bible Belt. It doesn't matter. Those statistics stay relatively the same. All right, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about signing these children up for a lifestyle that has a higher rate of suicide than the slaves did, for God's sake. I mean, and I'm sorry, I don't think trans people are more discriminated against than slaves were, right? It is a... I'm not sure if I'm going to get in trouble with YouTube here saying this or not, but overall it is a mental illness called gender dysphoria. Now, I have people who I know who are adults who have it. Their argument to me was very simple. There is no cure for this. Therefore, I feel better if I dress and act this way. And to a point, I respect that. I think as an adult, you're allowed to do whatever the heck you want for the most part. I'm more libertarian in that regard. I don't have to go along with it. I don't have to call you ma'am. I don't have to, I don't have to, it's ma'am. No, it's not. It's sir. It's sir. I'm going to keep calling you sir. I'm going to keep calling you what you are. But you have a right to dress and act however you want to act. That is your prerogative, not mine. You can choose to do that. It does not matter. It will not matter. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. You're going to say what you're going to say. And we're going to go our separate ways if we don't agree. That's fine. That's fine. But what we're talking about here is children. Children who don't even know what they're going to do next year, let alone for the rest of their lives. So, Fine specifically singled out plastic surgery doctor in Miami who he said advertises her gender confirmation services on TikTok. There's no reason to keep your kids off TikTok. There you go. I don't think if you're trying to market services to an adult, or I don't think if you're going, or if I can't say it all of a sudden, if you're trying to market your services to an adult, Fine said before shifting gears. I don't know about you. I don't use TikTok, but my 14-year-old does. Well, there you go. Yeah, it does lean more to the younger demographic. However, if they want to advertise on TikTok that they do gender surgery, again, I think adults should be allowed to do it. I think that's fine. Andrew Lent, a transgender health advocate for Equality Florida, said, Rep, these procedures aren't assigning a gender. That's not even what it is, Lent said. It's gender affirmation because people already know what their gender, or already know gender they identify with. Well, actually, not entirely, because people typically, again, for young kids, change their mind and continue on with what they are. So no, they do not. When you look at the stats, when it comes to below the age of 18, they don't know. When they're saying they're trans, they don't know. Over 90% of them decide to go and live a normal life and have no issues going forward. They grow out of it. So that's not the case for the people they're talking about in this bill. I love how they put that article right there. Like, come on, really? Lent said these decisions should be left up to a doctor, the patient, and their family. He also pointed out that many transgender youth don't use hormones or surgery during their transitions. Okay, so if they don't use hormones or surgery during the transitions, what's the harm in outlawing hormones and surgery for people who are under the age of 18? What's the harm in it? Please tell me. Leave in the comments below. What is the harm in it? Because I don't know what it is. Sam Scharf is a student at Hillsborough Community College, majoring in psychology and gender studies. At 18, she began transitioning, now 21. She says she's much happier and finally feels like herself. So, himself. I'm very happy. I've accomplished things I never would have thought possible in my past. I wouldn't be alive today if I wasn't allowed to transition. Again, according to Fine, the bill does not stop her from transitioning or him from transitioning. It simply says if you're under the age of 18. That's what he says he's going to be pushing. Under the age of 18, minors. When Sam first heard about the proposal from State Rep Randy Fine, she was shocked and disappointed. As a messenger of state leader of Brevard County, I would tell him to speak to a trans person for once. I feel like that's all he has to do. I feel that's all he has to do to see how incorrect he is. Incorrect about what? Saying that children can't make up their mind about gender. That children cannot get surgery, I should say. He's even saying they should be allowed to make up their mind on that. He's even saying that, yes, this should be allowed for them to actually transition socially. He's saying they can't get surgery. But here's if this bill goes through, they're going to play the same game they played with the Don't Say Gay bill, right? Where had nothing to do with anything they were saying. It had nothing to do with not being able to say gay. You could say gay all you want in school. It will not. You're not in trouble. You're okay to say it. Yet they claimed it was a Don't Say Gay bill. They're going to do the same thing. If this bill goes through, they're going to claim that this is going to ban transition probably for all, like, it's going to be like the anti-transition bill or something like that is what they're going to call it. And that's what the media is going to call it. And everyone's going to think, just as they thought that the Don't Say Gay bill, again, applied to every school when it only applied to kindergartners through third grade, they're going to say this anti-transition bill is going to apply to all people, or they're going to imply that it applies in every way, shape, and form, including social transition. When it doesn't. It only, according to him, it's only going to say that, only ban drugs and surgeries. And that's it. That's it. So what's the harm here? They're underage in the first place. And here's the thing, they're constantly pushing the trans stuff down our throats at this point, right? I mean, they are really trying to push it as much as they can, which is absolutely insane because they're almost excited when people come out to be trans. Like, they get really, really happy. Even, I don't mean in the sense of going like, hey, good for you kind of happy. I mean as in, yes, another one. Like, they get really overboard excited about it, which is just kind of disturbing. It's just kind of disturbing when you really think about it, isn't it? You're celebrating that someone has an affliction that's going to almost torture them for the rest of their lives. I mean, even people who transition and have very good transition with people who affirm everything about them, they still struggle daily because it's not what they are. They're mentally something different than they are actually, right? That they have, again, a very unfortunate mental condition. A very unfortunate mental condition that makes them feel they are something different than they actually are. How is that a good thing? How is that something we should be happy about? I mean, I don't go, yay, your kid's wearing glasses. All right, he doesn't have 20/20 vision. Woo! Yeah, that's not what I do, right? I wear contacts, by the way, so I can joke. I can make 4 eyes jokes. But we don't celebrate people having these conditions. Yay, you have ADHD. Woohoo! I have ADHD. I can make that joke. We don't celebrate these conditions. We say, oh, dang, that kind of sucks. Well, so I guess what are you going to do about it? I mean, right? If you have ADHD, for the most part, I don't take anything for it. I just live with it and deal with it, incorporate that into who I am, and try to find activities that will kind of benefit from having ADHD for the most part. I don't know what the answer is for trans. I'll be honest, I don't know what the answer is for trans, but what I do know is we shouldn't celebrate it as much as we do. It should be something that we look at and just go, okay, what's next? And we should take a very analytical approach to kind of the trans issue in general. Again, because these people aren't bad people. I want to make this very clear. When it comes to trans people, these aren't bad people in any sense of the word. But I would never wish what they have to go through on my worst enemy, because, again, it's something they're going to struggle with till the day they die. I mean, that's a difficult thing to struggle with. I can't imagine it. I can't imagine not being comfortable with who you are as just a person, not be able to even accept what you were even born as. I mean, it boggles the mind to think this is what these people are going through. So I do have sympathy for them, but they're trying to push other people to try to be the same, and that's kind of crazy. And before you say, oh, they're not really pushing, here's a tweet from Nickelodeon. So let's watch this real quick.
In honor of International Transgender Day of Visibility, meet Time and Nickelodeon's 2021 Kid of the Year finalist, Rebecca Brusahoff.
Growing up in the LGBTQ plus community has given me a different perspective on how I see the world. Trans kids are so much more than their gender identity, and it's so important for people to listen to kids. I wish for a world where everyone can be lifted up and celebrated.
So today, and every day, we celebrate those who are helping others realize that everyone should be proud of what makes them who they are.
Now I get it. They're saying be proud of who you are. Who could oppose this message? Be proud of who you are. Nickelodeon up here just so you can see. This is on Nickelodeon's official Twitter page. And it's funny they say Kids Choice Awards right there too, because they're very, obviously this is for kids. This is very I remember Nickelodeon doing stuff like Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? Or Chalk Zone. Who didn't love Chalk Zone or Hey Arnold, right? Now I was more of a Cartoon Network kid myself. You got Superman, Batman, Justice League, Teen Titans. I was a big DC fan, so obviously Cartoon Network, Kids Next Door, Ed, Ed and Eddie, Courage the Cowardly Dog. I mean, Cartoon Network ruled, right? Cartoon Network was way better than Nickelodeon. But Nickelodeon, at least back in my day, I sound like an old man. Back in my day, at least, Nickelodeon just had regular commercials. And really, it didn't do crazy crap like this, celebrating someone having this issue with them. And again, because it's an issue, right? And not to be disrespectful to the kid, listen. Say the person's name is Rebecca. It's a boy. I'll say Rebecca. I'll say Rebecca because you can change your name, right? You can change your name. But this boy is going to have a tough life. They're going to have problems as he get older. You saw that with I can't think of their name at the moment, but that one boy who transitioned to a girl who was like everywhere. They were supposed to go to college and all this crazy stuff, and instead they gained like a bunch of weight. They had like a complete bottom surgery done, and apparently just had constant issues with it as well. Had depression. Like they came out with a statement saying, "Well, they can't be alone right now." I mean, these are the issues these people are dealing with, and we're encouraging it to a certain level. We're celebrating people with these issues. It kind of reminds me of when we were celebrating stuff like single mothers in a way. No offense to single mothers out there, obviously. I mean, it's not always up to you if you become a single mother, but it was kind of funny how like we almost held single motherhood up as a higher level than just traditional family. And it's like, no, one is a bunch of hardship, very difficult stuff, and I don't know how y'all do it, versus one is the right path that young girls should be pushing towards, actually having a solid family with a husband and kids. Same thing when it comes to boys, of course, they should be pushed into finding wives and getting married and having kids as well. I had someone comment on one of the videos, what do I know about marriage? What do you know about all this stuff? Well, I mean, I've been happily married for like 3 years now, and I have 2 kids. Like, what can I say? But it's weird that right now we seem to be celebrating things that are causing people problems, that are causing people suffering. Right? This shouldn't be celebrated. This isn't a good thing that this person is trans. It's a thing that they're going to have to now deal with for the rest of their life. And again, with the suicide rate the way it is right now in the trans community, it's kind of a dangerous thing. It really is. And again, have sympathy for these people. I have full sympathy for these people. And again, when they turn 18, they can do whatever they want. But this is Nickelodeon putting on their commercials for all the kids to see. So when you say your kid in front of Nickelodeon, what are they going to come back to you and say? I mean, again, we were coming back to our parents and maybe making a somewhat inappropriate joke or something like that. Or maybe going to my dad going, man, you should have saw the Joker and Batman do this thing, right? Like, it wasn't really that bad at all. I mean, there were some things that you could point to that were sure on the line, but it wasn't this overt. And the things that normally pushed the line in a lot of cartoons back in our day was stuff like violence, right? And frankly, kids understand violence. I mean, my 1-year-old, he's just starting to get to a point where he's starting to like hit stuff a little bit. But kids start understanding violence at a very young age. When it comes to this sort of stuff, no, they do not. They do not understand it until they start going through puberty, and even then afterwards, it's still somewhat difficult to really understand what all these hormones really means in your body. Thanks so much for watching that clip. If you want to watch the live show, it is Thursdays at 9 o'clock. Again, that is 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. But if you don't want to wait that long, we got some other awesome content out there. All you got to do is click on this video over to the right, and it will take you right on to the next one. Either way, thanks so much for watching, and we'll be talking again real soon.